How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, of course. Excited to be here.
Yes, yeah. So today we're going to be going over the Invincible Summer of Juniper Jones. I have my book right here, which basically the book follows Ethan Harper's summer in Elson, Alabama in 1955 as a biracial teen. Ethan is raised by his white father, and race has been a distant conversation for most of his life. However, in this small southern town, he is forced to face the scrutiny and racism that comes with being Black in America. His one saving grace in this town is Juniper Jones, who welcomes him with open arms in contrast to the rest of the town. The book takes you through their many adventures, and the readers have the pleasure of witnessing a pure and accepting friendship despite being the most difficult summer of Ethan's teenage life. So I just finished the book, and it was amazing. It was a
Thank
lot of
you.
emotions, kind of a roller coaster, but so good. But yeah, so we usually start off our interviews just by asking if you've ever been in a book club and what being in a book club means to you as a reader as well as an author.
Yeah, so I have been in a couple book clubs, especially over the past year, like with being virtual and stuff. It's been easier to join more book clubs. So, actually, one of my favorite bookstores in Providence, which is where I went to school, has a book club, and I hadn't been able to go because it was in person. But this past year, I've been able to join their book club, which has been great.
Yeah, that's awesome. I know during this pandemic, for a lot of people, book clubs have been kind of like a saving grace a little bit. And just,
Yeah,
I know for
totally.
me at least, it has. Yeah. But okay, so I put together some questions for you. And if anybody else has questions, just write in. But so my first question is going to be, what experiences in your life have influenced you in writing this book?
Yeah, so the main character Ethan, as
Oh,
you
hold
mentioned in the
on.
summary, is oop, can you hear
Oh,
me?
did I skip? I skipped. You skipped a little bit too, but you're good. Go ahead.
Oh no. Okay, sorry. I'll start over.
You're good.
Um, so the main character in Invincible Summer, Ethan, is biracial, and I'm also biracial. I'm Black and Southeast Asian. And so part of wanting to write this book came from wanting to write from a place of an identity that I could understand. I think like so I wrote the first draft of this book when I was 17.
Wow.
And up until that point, I'd mostly been writing books with like white main characters because that was what I saw in what I read. And so I really just wanted to kind of draw from my own experiences more in writing this book.
Right. That makes sense. Definitely. That's very cool. Crazy that you started writing this book at 17 years old. I can't imagine. But hold on. Yeah, that's crazy. Okay, so my second question for you is, what inspired your choice to use Ellison, Alabama as the setting for this story?
Yeah, so Elson, Alabama, not a real place. I'm like
Okay.
a big fan of making up a fake town um, to set my books in because I'm afraid I'll get something wrong if I base it on a real place.
Right.
Um, so yeah, I mean there is a few chapters where the characters go to Montgomery, Alabama, which of course is
Hmm.
a real place, but yeah, I just kind of made it up.
Okay, gotcha. Interesting. So my next question is, when Ethan is examining his relationship with his distant mother and how he is lacking a parental figure that can help him navigate being Black in America, you wrote, he wondered if she would tell him, as he had begun to suspect himself, that her blood and therefore his own was poison. And this was just like, I think, a very powerful statement to me. And so I just wanted to ask, could you further explain what you meant by that line?
Yeah, so I think like that line really comes from a place of Ethan is like still trying like reckoning with where he fits into this town and if he fits into this town and um confronting his identity in a real way that he hasn't really before. So he's coming from a place as he's thinking that of some kind of like amount of shame or just like fear of accepting his blackness and his identity.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, his musings that that his blood might be poison is kind of a reflection of how his like attitude towards his own identity at that point in the book.
Gotcha. Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. So as a reader, I found myself getting very frustrated with Ethan's father. What would you say the significance of his role in this story is?
Yeah, I mean, so when I was writing this, something I was really interested in exploring was like forgiveness and, when forgiveness makes sense, when sometimes it doesn't, like how relationships can move on even if there isn't totally forgiveness. And so I really wanted to explore that through Ethan's dad's character, so that Ethan would have this person in his life who like does genuinely care for him, thinks he's doing the best for him, but just is not thinking deeply at all about like
Right.
what his actions are doing, and just is at some points willfully misunderstanding the
Yeah.
situation. And so with his dad, I really wanted to give Ethan a chance to sort of think about, yes, this is my family member, yes, this is someone I love, like how much do I have to give them grace in their
Right.
mistakes.
Right. And I don't want to spoil anything, but I think that's something that really, that one conversation later on in the book where he's kind of just like, I'm not totally you're not forgiven. Like nothing's
Mm-hmm.
okay, but I'm willing to kind of move forward, if that makes sense. That kind of really stuck with me. And now it makes sense. Um, so another question I have is, in many ways, Juniper acts as an ally to Ethan, but were occasionally still flaws in the way she tried to help. For example, when you wrote, he feel like he needed to comfort her, but what for? This was his pain to bear and not hers. Do you think there is more that Juniper could have done to help Ethan's situation? And what is the message behind their relationship as well as the growth of the relationship throughout the book?
Mm-hmm. So I think like definitely there's more that Juniper could have done to help Ethan, but I think like the point wasn't really to point out like her failings, but to just give what I hope and what from my experience has been just a realistic portrayal of a friendship between a person with a marginalized identity and a person with more
Mm-hmm.
privileged identities, and the ways that like I mean it's complicated and
Yeah.
and it's difficult for folks to be able to be 100% supportive all of the time, and I just really wanted to explore that in their relationship, and like again like Ethan, like exploring Ethan's capacity to forgive and move on from things, and like
Right.
balancing that with how he values their relationship.
Right. And I that you can kind of see throughout the book her, oh, hold on, did I freeze on you? Or can you hear me?
Nope. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Just making sure. Sorry. But yeah, it was really interesting to kind of just see the growth of Juniper too, as she kind of started to understand more. And I think it just like, it was really cool, just seeing her transform throughout the story and become more, or just better in some ways. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Um,
thank you.
and then finally, this is just kind of a lighter question, but I was just curious, how did you decide on the name Juniper Jones?
Okay, so when I was in high school and when I was like driving around my hometown, I would just like write down names of streets that I thought could make cool character names, because I was always like I don't know, there's so many names that I'm like I associate the name with a person, so I can never name a character that.
Mm-hmm.
Um and so I used to get a lot of inspiration for names from streets, and I saw a street that was called Juniper, and I feel like it just kind of immediately, like her character just like came to life in my head. Like
Yeah.
it's such a playful name. Um, Jones was because I just liked the alliteration, and just like the number of syllables felt right. Um, but yeah, definitely just like saw it as a really like kind of playful, carefree name for a character who's also
Yeah, that's so
not.
funny because I don't know if you ever read Junie B. Jones growing up,
I
but when I
did.
was really young, Yeah, that's when I hear her name, I always think Junie B. Jones, and she's such like a Junie B. Jones kind of character. So I was just like, oh, that's so funny, you know? But yeah, okay. So now for the ending of this interview, we do this segment called rapid fire questions. So basically, I'm just going to throw a bunch of questions and just answer them as best as you can. You don't even have to give us an explanation, but just to get to know you a little bit more.
Sure.
So
Sounds good.
awesome. So our first question is, what's your favorite book?
Uh, uh,
I know, this is a hard one.
oh no. At this point I should expect that this is going to be asked of me and have an answer ready. Okay, right now I'm going to say a book that I really loved recently is An Unkindness of Ghosts by Rivers Solomon.
Ooh, okay. I haven't checked that one out, so maybe I'll have to put that on my list.
Yeah.
Okay, so where will you be traveling when COVID is no longer a thing?
I mean, like my first trip will be to visit my parents, who I haven't seen in like a year. But I just really want to go somewhere warm, somewhere in California. So I guess I could knock that out by visiting them.
Yeah, I totally understand. I'm right in that same mentality. So who is your favorite author?
Oh man, there are so many. I think someone whose work I feel like I come back to again and again is Toni Morrison. Just like her lyricism and just the stories she tells and the way she tells them is beautiful. But also there are so many like amazing YA authors out there who are just doing really innovative stuff, like Ian Thomas and Brandy Colbert. So yeah, that's my answer.
Okay, awesome. And then 2 last questions. What book is currently on your nightstand?
It's usually literally on my nightstand, but I moved it. I'm currently reading Revenge of the Sluts by Natalie Walton. She's also a Wattpad Books author and one of my close friends.
Okay, awesome. And then what is the best series that you last watched?
Oh, well, okay, I've been watching The X-Files just completely nonstop for the past month and a half, and I don't know if I would say I'm enjoying myself. I don't know if I would say it's the best. It's all.
Yeah. And is that one on Netflix?
No, it's on Hulu.
On Hulu? Okay, cool. I'll have to check it out. I actually have never watched that one, so maybe that's next on my list. I'm looking for new shows.
It's a big commitment. There's
okay,
like
well,
400
thank
episodes.
you so much. oh my God. Okay, maybe, I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, thank you so much for joining us. We loved hearing from you, and everybody, if you haven't, pick up the Invincible Summer. It was so good and definitely worth the read. So thank you so much.
Thank you,
and
Olivia.
Yeah, everybody go read it. All right, well, thanks. Bye.
Bye.